Do I have an original thought in my head? My bald head? Maybe if I were happier, my hair wouldn't be falling out. Life is short. I need to make the most of it. Today is the first day of the rest of my life. I'm a walking cliche. I really need to go to the doctor and have my leg checked. There's something wrong. A bump. The dentist called again. I'm way overdue. If I stopped putting things off, I would be happier. All I do is sit on my fat ass. If my ass wasn't fat, I would be happier. I wouldn't have to wear these shirts with the tails out all the time. Like that's fooling anyone. Fat ass. I should start jogging again. 5 miles a day. Really do it this time. Maybe rock climbing. I need to turn my life around. What do I need to do? I need to fall in love. I need to have a girlfriend. I need to read more. Improve myself. What if I learned Russian or something? Or took up an instrument? I could speak Chinese. I'd be the screenwriter who speaks Chinese and plays the oboe. That would be cool. I should get my hair cut short. Stop trying to fool myself and everyone else into thinking I have a full head of hair. How pathetic is that? Just be real. Confident. Isn't that what women are attracted to? Men don't have to be attractive. But that's not true. Especially these days. Almost as much pressure on men as there is on women these days. Why should I be made to feel I have to apologize for my existence? Maybe it's my brain chemistry. Maybe that's what's wrong with me. Bad chemistry. All my problems and anxieties can be reduced to a chemical imbalance or some kind of misfiring synapses. I need to get help for that. But I'll still be ugly, though. Nothing's going to change that.
I'm your favorite clown from Tulsi Town, where ice cream grows on trees. So have no fear, come and join me here, and eat as much as you please. I will turn your frown fully upside down when you take your very first bite. A vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry, we are open day and night.
Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you are listening to Watch This List. Today is a very agonizing and despairing episode in which Frank and I tried to cover Charlie Kaufman, which was not my idea, and in fact, one that I was very passionately against. And I want that to be on record because now Frank is in the position that I was in a week ago. Care to comment?
What? This is unbased. This is unfair. You agreed. I can't make you do anything.
Frank wanted to do Charlie Kaufman as a director who's only directed 3 films and then was like, oh, so we're going to fit in that he's a writer and watch all those films. Yeah. That's not what PROVOCAUTEUR is about. Okay. It's about directors, not writers.
But I thought the idea was behind the auteur thing altogether.
Or the provocative thing, I guess.
And the provocative thing, I guess, too. I mean, Charlie Kaufman's not provocative. That's... I think most people actually do get provoked into pretty extreme reactions with his films. But I stand by, I texted you, I didn't say what, but like within 4 minutes into being John Malkovich, I knew that we had made the right choice in watching all of them, not just his directorial stuff, because like I was immediately thinking of Synecdoche and Anomalisa and Ending Things. And like even more throughout that movie, I never once was thinking of Her or Where the Wild Things Are, the 2 Spike Jonze movies that Kaufman has nothing to do with. I was thinking of only Kaufman's movies. And doing this project, I'm sure you agree, both a benefit and a deterrent doing it this way, watching them all in order in fast succession, because they are so similar. And there are recurring themes and motifs and like even phrases and borderline characters, like movie to movie, that like he is a creative force in all of these movies, even when he's not the director, which like, yeah, I feel like people probably refer to Being John Malkovich more as a Charlie Kaufman movie than a Spike Jonze movie, you know?
Yes, but
as adaptation, because he's
as we have realized, though, it greatly matters who is directing his material, because Clooney sucked, and because it's not just right. It's important that Charlie's like involved in the process heavily, and that the directors are collaborators with him. But I do kind of agree. I think you said at some point, we have had so many text messages in the last 7 days that I can't possibly recall them. But one thing I think we were saying was like, as he started as a director, he only got better. And you can see how going from Confessions of a Dangerous Mind and then going to adaptation and then going like the way that adaptation to Dangerous Mind, right?
Yeah, and then to
adaptation
Sunshine.
did, and then to Sunshine. You can see Sunshine from Dangerous Mind, how it was like, okay, let me out. And then that was such a huge success, even though it had Gondry as the director. And then as soon as Kaufman took the reins, I feel like he's only gotten better over time.
I mean, as like his singular voice, do you mean better over time?
And better as a director over time.
Well, sure, of course. Yeah, of course. Synecdoche definitely like is his least impressive directorially of his three works. It feels the most familiar to, like, it doesn't seem that far from a Being John Malkovich or whatever, like, truthfully. But then Anomalisa and Ending Things feel so specific and unique and one of one, and it's like, okay, this is we've gotten to pure Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah.
And I think the difference there, because I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, I love most of these, and I know you at least like a lot.
The only one I don't like is Confession. That's really it, which is hard to even count.
Yeah, I dislike Confessions as well, and I wasn't crazy about Human Nature, but I at least respect it. And like, it's all the stuff that's like clearly him is at least interesting. I think the difference when somebody else is interpreting his work versus just him is actually the like. It's two things. I think it's a groundedness and the level of miserableism. Like when other people are doing it, they don't full tilt into miserable. Like they are inherently miserable text, but like all the ones that aren't directed by him still have like sources of levity, and they're still very like movie focused, movie oriented. And that, but then also grounded. They still feel like real characters in the real world. And this is like you just accept, sure, there's a portal into John Malkovich's mind, and here's all these quirky details, but like they're still human beings living their weird human lives. Where Synecdoche and onward, it's kind of like fully detached from reality in some way. It's a lot more like dreamscape, mindscape stuff going on, you know?
It's also way more about like getting old. Like those three have a lot of themes of like almost senility and like just
you're over
going
the hill.
From middle age to like elderly. I mean, it's a lot more end of life, like health deterioration, losing your mind, losing your sense of wonder and purpose. Like it's so weird to go from Ending Things to Orion in a way. Even though they're 4 years apart, it's weird because it's like you go from like a very old man to a child. And so there's that like re-shifting of focus. And I think he can do both equally well, but both of them were based on material he didn't come up with, though.
I've heard him talk about that, though, that it's the only way he thinks he'll ever get funding again. So he's intentionally now trying to adapt things. Because nobody will ever give him money to just do what he actually wants. But clearly, as he's proven time and time again, adapting doesn't stop him from having his authorial voice come through. Apparently,
for better or worse.
Well, yeah. Apparently, Orion, it's nothing like the book that it's based on, unsurprisingly. Okay. Like, he basically rewrote his own thing entirely.
Even though I'm thinking of Ending Things was so faithful to the book, like ridiculously.
Well, it wasn't, right? Like I haven't read it, but I know.
I felt like that. Yeah, I read the book before I saw the movie because I didn't even know he was making a movie of it, and I happened to read it. It's not very long, and I was like, "This is one of the most faithful adaptations I've ever seen."
Interesting.
I've
not heard the same thing. I've heard it's pretty close, but then it diverts at some point.
Yeah, but the how do I say this? It's like what people say about Harry Potter, like the spirit of the thing and the authenticity to the characters and everything. It's exactly how you would imagine it in your head, is what I'm saying.
I see. Okay,
and that's a hard thing to do.
The spirit of the book perfectly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can believe that. But it still feels like it's coming straight out of his mind, like the way everybody's speaking to each other, the things that they're talking about. It's all platitudes and references and weird information you pick up along the way, and that's present in all of his movies, you know.
But I wonder if he is like almost critiquing his own process by saying that, because it's like he strikes me as someone who isn't like he's like a master forger in a way, where he like makes something his own by using something that exists, rather than like an original artist who just like it comes out of their head and it's not based on anything. Maybe that's something that's an insecurity with him, is that he has to have other material exist, and then he can do something unique with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think it holds up. I mean, from being John Malkovich, like, it's so clear how much his movies are playing with the cliches and tropes of movies. Like, they're intentionally trying to induce that, like, shortcut thinking in our brains. Like, here's this character archetype. Here's the way the plot progresses. Here's, you got to have your act 1, act 2, act 3. Like, adaptation, of course, lets us all in that he is literally doing that. But like, so like, yeah, from the basis of his ground construction, he's referencing a language that is movies. Like, it's not it's not made in a vacuum. It's not made in a void. He is clearly in conversation with the things he's consumed through his life and what we all consume through our lives.
And even John Malkovich, like John Malkovich is a real person who exists. So I mean, he can't.
Literally,
he doesn't even like invent an actor. He uses a person who has a persona, and then John Malkovich is totally down for playing his persona. It's so funny to watch now, because I've seen John Malkovich movies where he's in the cabs, you know, and then he's like, "Are you that guy from the
Jewel Thief?"
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. And that's like exactly how you would imagine that he would act. He just plays so well into like just this like quiet, arrogant, like way too theatrical guy, you know, talking about art and stuff. But yeah, so Kaufman uses things, I think, that exist and have a certain identity about them, and then does something special from there that's weird.
You know, I don't know if you agree with this, and I was not a fan of this movie really before rewatching, but rewatching Eternal Sunshine for really the first time in my like adult life. Like, yeah, the last time I was definitely still in my teen years, so I think that changes some perspective on the movie for sure. Watching it, it really struck me though. I'm like, I think this might be the closest you can say to him having an original work. Because you brought it up. This was one text I remember. You said like Joel is the only protagonist where like his occupation doesn't matter, and it really doesn't. And these people aren't defined by their status in life and their jobs. It's like just focusing on the relationships. So like all of the quote unquote references and tropes are more real world references and tropes, like of people's relationships and how we think about them and observe them and want to be in them. So he's like, it's like the only one that's not a self-aware movie, even though it's still doing very hyper filmic things, you know. I think it genuinely might be the only one though that you could maybe call original.
I also think that Joel is his healthiest character. I because he's not an artist. Like every single other movie, well, I guess Ending Things doesn't, but most of them, the main guy is an artist, theater director, puppeteer. What was Tim Robbins? Himself. Charlie, screenwriter.
Well, Tim Robbins is like a scientist.
But still, I'm just saying, like, there's Joel Barish has nothing to do with his profession. I actually had to Google what it was, and he works for a travel agency. I don't think that we know that. So
do we even know that?
And then like Clementine has a line about like,
well, she works at the library or whatever,
right? The Barnes and Noble, and then she has a line about the hair. Now it is like the hair thing, like naming. But I'm just saying, like the leads in his movies, we tend to know what they are. I mean, the janitor in Ending Things is key, that he's a janitor. So, but it doesn't matter at all who Joel is or what he does, and that doesn't seem to like impact how he thinks or anything like the other characters.
Well, I don't know if I agree, because one of his whole deals, he's got a lot of deals, as do all of these characters. There's not just one thing that they're hung up on. There's a myriad of things they're hung up on. But one of Joel's hangups is, isn't it, or See, this is the problem. They blend together a little bit.
I'll tell you because I've seen it many times.
I'm pretty sure he's very like, what is my purpose? My days they go on and nothing matters and there's no change and I'm not interesting. He's constantly talking about how he's not interesting and he has no interesting thoughts. And it feels like he desires to be this creative and he draws in his journal and his notes. And that's the only time he like truly expresses. Otherwise, he's kind of like a non-expressive, really closed off human. I don't know if he's very healthy, Amy.
Are you like, Clementine right now? You just sound like Clementine describing Joel. He's so boring. Like, how can anybody be so boring?
I didn't say he was boring. I didn't say he was boring. His self-perception is he's boring, and thus actually maybe he is a little boring. Like, I don't know. Like he feels very much, I mean, the classic Kaufman conundrum is like, you're the thing stopping yourself from being who you are, because like all identity is a projection. And so like you're projecting outward this negative identity that you don't even like. So like you're trapped in a loop of your own thoughts and you get more and more closed off. So like, I don't even remember why I started.
Okay, but Frank, I'm gonna counter you with this idea then, because you're saying like that if he could express his creative, this is what I'm hearing you say, if he expressed his creative desires or found an outlet for them, he'd be happy. But that's exactly what Craig does, and he isn't. Craig literally, his whole thing is that he gets to do exactly what he wants creatively, and he is so miserable.
Yeah, because he's insecure about women or whatever.
But this is what I'm saying. Joel would be too. So what is the?
No, I'm just saying. What I'm saying is I still don't think he's healthy. I don't think the artist, because he does have his artistic outlet. It's not that. It's just like his inner voice is no different than all the other protagonists. His inner voice is still this defeated, self-deprecating, closed off, self-contained worry machine.
Okay, when I say healthy, I mean that I don't think Joel would put a woman in a cage. How about that? There's my...
Well, then like, they're all more healthy than Craig and ending things. Those are the two worst on the spectrum then.
Yeah, but I think Tim Robbins is also terrible.
Oh, well, literally.
He literally
puts him in the cage. Yeah, that's so true.
And then who am I forgetting here? Oh, well, Charlie would not.
Charlie might actually somehow be the most healthy protagonist if we're talking like and he's deeply unwell, but he... Okay, this. I don't know how. I know we're jumping all over the place and whatever.
It's okay. Well, Caden is also very unhealthy, and so is Michael from Anomalisa.
Agree.
Yeah.
I agree with.
And Caden is like, yeah.
Well, Caden's just a mess.
Yeah.
He's a mess, and he's his own problem. I think the reason the reason you think adaptation is by far your favorite is because like. It at the end is the one that's the most unambiguously hopeful. Like
yes,
it's like the only one where it's like a positive change will come, like 100%. Charlie is a different person at the end of adaptation. I don't know if you can say that about any other person in all of his movies. Most of them kind of end up in like a worse place or the same place.
Except for maybe Orion, which is a cartoon.
Well, that one, because it was literally written for children. So
no, I know you can't end with despair. I would say that one reason I love adaptation for like more reasons than I can express, but one of the reasons that I like Charlie is because I feel like it is the most balanced portrayal of the male psyche. Like having Donald there. Is what centers Charlie. So there's no Donald in the rest of the filmography that gets because I don't think Donald could have been a woman. I think that Charlie makes a lot of the females in these movies try to be that for the guy, and they can't. It's kind of like when McKee says your characters must change and the change must come from them meaning Charlie and Donald. The change that Charlie arrives at is in the swamp.
Right.
The chat with Donald is the moment of change.
You are what
and
you
that's
love.
From them.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not from Charlie. alone. And he says, thank you, and then he can't express how much that meant to him. And then Donald gets to go, and then he's like fully integrated, in my opinion. So it's like, that's why I think that it's healthy, because there seems to be, we're pulling from two places to get to a centeredness. And I don't know that that's in the rest of them, because a lot of the characters just reject anybody that would come in and try to, like Anomalisa, he rejects an opportunity to become better or to grow. You know what I mean? And then he stays stuck. I don't think Craig gets any better either.
No,
I mean,
no. Craig is reincarnated into the daughter of his two lost loves. Like, what are you talking about? That guy fucked up.
And then I don't know if you want to say like Caden gets better.
No, Caden, the thing about Synecdoche, the highest outcome in a Charlie Kaufman film, I think, is acceptance. He reaches acceptance, which is, but then it's like, does he also? Because his dying breath is like, I finally understand, which he's only said like 15 times before. It's like, maybe there isn't actually acceptance. It's constant cycles of the same thing over and over until you die. It's fun stuff to think about.
I mean, in LaRoche doesn't get any. Susan doesn't really get any. There's like,
they have to morph into fake versions of themselves to complement the
I
story.
lied about what happened to me. I lied about my change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons, I know this is not a popular opinion, but one of the reasons I do not like the end of Eternal Sunshine is because the okay is not in the line that I think that adaptation ends in terms of like, I don't know, that's almost to me like we're accepting that we're not gonna grow from this and keep making the same mistakes and not be that it's like good to not be a different person.
See, Amy, I agree completely with your take, but that's why I love it. I am confused and dubious of the people who are like, what a romantic, beautiful ending. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't.
I think I like it because it's dark and twisted of like, yep, we're going to choose to live in this cycle forever because we're cosmically connected. And then that's just what it is. And so here we go. Okay, let's do it again. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a good. It's definitely closer to a bad thing. I guess it could be.
But don't you think it's disturbing if people think that that's romantic?
Yeah, but like also, sorry, I don't know. Love's confusing. I don't know. No, because it reminds me of Phantom Thread a lot, and like genuinely, but like, and it gave me the PTA like tickle where I'm like, yeah, we know this is like a bad thing, but isn't that what's exciting about it or something? Like, because that's where they all end. And I struggled the first many times watching Phantom Thread. I'm like, how could anyone find this romantic? But then like the fifth or sixth time watching, I was like, well, if they're happy, who's to say? And
okay.
That's
and
always
yet,
going to
Frank,
be a hard thing.
And yet this is one that you put on your psychopath love list. So yeah. I'm not sure that like, if this is like...
Psychopaths should have love. No?
Right, but are you saying that you got to a point where you felt that was actually acceptable, normal behavior, or are you saying that that's like good for them?
It's more like the good for them.
Good for them.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean that to me is like what true love is. Like true love can't be explained. It's just like it's just what it is. Now, is that smart? Is that healthy? Is that good? If this was real life, I'd be having a different conversation. I think in the context of drama and movies and like the ideas of love, I think these things are all very tantalizing to think about, to consider, to sit with, to empathize with. But like, in practical real reality, Joel and Clementine are fucking disasters and like should not be together even a little bit. And like, it's a tragedy that like you go through all of this pain and hatred to just like, let's do it again.
Do it again. Yeah.
I don't know. But then at the same time, it's like saying choosing the human experience will always be better than rejecting never trying or something. Like that is the one spot I think you can view it as a positive, triumphant thing. Like they're going to relive it and it'll probably end the same, but like they're going to live with the feeling instead of it went bad one time, so let's erase it. Well, not one time, but you know what I mean.
What I said, because I did a solo episode on Eternal Sunshine, and what I said at the end was that what I like, but this is not, it wouldn't sell, is the idea that they come in, they hear each other's tapes, okay, like fully, and they're like, okay, let's work on this, let's listen to our future selves and what we said about each other, instead of just saying, okay, like, I'm just gonna we're going to try this again and hope that it ends up different. Let's say, like, how do we grow? But that's just not, that's just sort of not where it's at, is where I'm at. But I just think that would have been more romantic to me, to just be like, I don't know, let's take into account maybe and try to learn something. Because we obviously wanted to erase each other in anger, and we really didn't like each other. Why? Yeah.
But I mean, this is what I think that really does feel like the transition film, not because it literally was into him becoming a director, but like, I feel like the Charlie Kaufman pessimism is maybe only kept at bay by Gondry's sensibilities as a filmmaker, maybe a little bit, but like in the script, it's pretty darkly pessimistic from beginning to end in like all ways. Even the side plot, like, people would immediately start to take advantage of this technology for their own gains, that like you can wipe someone else's memories and I don't know.
Technically it is brain damage.
Yeah. That made me laugh so hard.
Cause any brain damage? Technically it is brain damage.
They're all so good. I don't know. This is such a strange conversation. All I was thinking of, though, is that ending things this time now, watching, and so I cheated and I watched Orion before I watched the 3 directorial ones. That's the only one I did out of order. Otherwise I went in order, and I actually like that choice. I think ending with Orion would have felt a little crazy. Did it?
Yeah.
Ending things felt like an appropriate ending. It's the same thing I felt when I watched The Irishman, where I'm like, I, of course, want Martin Scorsese to keep making movies. I would die for Charlie Kaufman to have new movies. But they did kind of make the perfect last movie, in a way. Like, I don't know if you really have more that you could say to me that would... Yeah, I don't know. If they feel like final statements of, like, human existence in the same way to me. So ending things, though, this time really did bring me a weird sense of calm. And it didn't upset me. Like, Anomalisa and Synecdoche were both very upsetting. And I was like, ooh, this has been a heavy week and a half, or whatever the hell. But ending things kind of just, made me feel real calm. And I think it's because that one fully embraces his miserableism beginning to end. It, like, starts usually where his movies kind of end in the third act. It, like, starts in the, like, the whole reality is changed and all the stuff's happening to these characters going through the big change or not change. Like, they usually explode into more, phantasmagorical stuff, I guess. But like, anything kind of starts there and then goes even further, deeper into that by the end. So I don't know. I think maybe because it was so openly miserable beginning to end, it brought a sense of calm in some way, where I'm like, okay, Charlie, get it all out.
It's almost like it's like what people say, like, if your brain is racing, to listen to something where people are talking, or to put yourself in a situation where there's a lot of noise, just because I think that there is a sort of soothing effect if your brain naturally works a certain way and then you hear it, you're like, oh, okay, like, you're just not the only one. And you can get your mind off your own thoughts by having different ones. But that's what kind of ending things is about, is that this attempt to get other people's thoughts and other writers' thoughts into their heads so they don't have to think about theirs. Like the whole scene talking about women under the influence.
She turns into Pauline Kael.
Wordsworth, A Beautiful Mind. There's so many sections where... At first, Oklahoma, I was like, maybe this is just trying to say we're a culmination of references, which we are. But I think it's also saying that those memories sometimes feel more real than our own memories. Like the memory of the little jingle in Tinseltown encapsulates a part of his childhood that he cannot articulate, but that song does. So it is, so much of like what you said, the disintegration of the mind, but then also how the mind works. Like literally how thoughts work, how memories work, what associations we have. And it's less about defining ourselves, I think, than expressing maybe.
That's interesting.
Like, how do we communicate and relate to one another through art, through artistic, have you read this book? Like David Foster Wallace, he says that again, the pretty girl thing, which I've actually read. So I was like, oh, Charlie, I'm with you. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't either. I mean, he's clearly obsessed with these ideas through them all of how do we relate to ourselves and to each other. And clearly he's one of the people that has an internal monologue going on, which like I do too. And I'm sure you do too. I was stunned to find out, that there's a large percentage of people who don't have that going on. It's
no voiceover in their own head.
Yeah,
crazy.
I don't understand. That sounds scary.
Too much quiet.
At this point, it sounds scary. I'm sure it would have been a nice, different version of life, but
this is like the opposite of what we said about the noise.
Yeah,
like we need the noise.
Yeah. Wait, what was I saying?
All of them are about relating.
Yeah. So he's obsessed with like what are the voices that go into our head that then create the voice. Like all of them have like weird jingles or like TV shows that they're watching, news programs, commercials, songs, self-help tapes, like advertisement, books, like made up ones, real ones, plays, like but like it all matters in the makeup of these people and their own internal mind. Like, yeah, the things we consume, it does change who we are without us even intending it to. I mean, that's what I said when I watched the adaptation. I was like, I watched this movie very young, clearly, and my subconscious latched onto it, and it said, yoink, this is what being a creative is, or something, which is wasn't the healthy download. And
that's a lot of people's takeaway that really annoys me. I told you this, is that people think that adaptation is just about writer's block, or it's like the most accurate thing about the writing process. That is not to me at all what it is emphasizing. Yes, he struggles, but the reason
that's where it starts.
The reason he struggles to write is because I think that Charlie is trying very, very hard. Ironically, because Charlie in the movie is trying really hard, and they're trying really, really hard not to put themselves in it. And I think that Kaufman could not take himself out of The Orchid Thief, and so he just made a movie of him trying to take himself out by putting himself in it. So, and then to add the double, so that we have all this stuff about trick photography, and that Donald is writing a movie about where three people are the same person. There's so many layers to it, but I think it is this sincere desire. Just like a lot of times I can feel this too. I'm sure you do when you make movies, that you're like, this is Eternal Sunshine meets, The Exorcist, but you also are trying to have your own creative vision that doesn't borrow, that is true. And that's the same sort of like drive that Kaufman has. So I think that's what I relate to in adaptation a lot more than like not being able to write.
Yeah. I mean, I agree completely. I don't think about it in the writer block sense either, even though like it is a crucial component of the literal plot, and like maybe where he started writing from in real life, like was struggling. So then voila, here we go. But yeah, it's about way more than that. They're all about so much stuff that I both like get and don't get why people buck against Charlie Kaufman. And something actually that I'm interested in is the like watching Being John Malkovich. I was like, this is not different from Synecdoche and Ending Things and Anomalisa. Like they're in the same voice. Like the voice is formed and it really doesn't change that much. Like it focuses on different aspects. It focuses in different scenarios, but like he's doing the same bits. Like they're like vignette structured and like weird interactions you're forced to have, and nobody's normal. There's monkeys everywhere. Puppets come up a lot. Acting, of course. Like, I don't know.
Stop motion. I mean, he is kind of obsessed with like the theater
musicals.
I mean,
Human Nature feels like it's trying to be. Yeah, that was my favorite scene. I was like, what's happening? This rocks. It feels like it's trying to be a 30s movie, you know, like genuinely, the pacing and the way it's jumping around. But I just don't get how you could love the early ones, but then not like it at all in the later ones. Like, I get having preferences because there are differences, but I don't get how you could be half in the bag with him or fully out of the bag either. Like, I guess I get why people hate him just because he is a little miserable and there's a lot going on. But
I think the only one that I have like witnessed, at least on Letterboxd anyway, is that people really don't like Synecdoche when they don't like it. But the other ones
too.
Okay.
People hate that movie.
I understand Synecdoche in terms of the pacing, and that you would just be like, okay, enough already, you know, because it just keeps going down and down and down, and you kind of want
that's life,
breath.
Amy.
The only saving grace for me is the scene with Hazel at the end when they're in the burning house and they're talking. That's
unreal.
That's kind of a good, like, okay, thank you, just something, I don't know, but I don't really go into them feeling like I'm there to be comforted. So
yeah, any of them really, except again maybe adaptation.
I do, yeah. I do find adaptation extremely comforting also because there's so many layers to it, and I love Orlean. I love all the stuff with LaRoche.
Mm-hmm.
He tends to have
great character,
right? Characters that are very passionate and very intense. Lottie is kind of like LaRoche to me, where she's very intense, and they get obsessed, and then they have the one-track mind, and then that's all they want, and they don't want anything else. And then if they didn't want that anymore, they would just drop it entirely and forget about it. It's that
they become movie characters.
I guess so.
You got to simplify them. They have one want and desire, and we must know that goal. Do I sound like McKee yet?
Yeah, McKee. You cannot have a protagonist without desire. What does he say? Just
Don't
one where nothing much happens.
Fucking time.
I have no bloody use for it. I'm the one that you yelled at. I need more. Remember?
Yes.
I'm the one who said nothing happened in life. Okay, so what do you think besides, like, if you had to say the through line, now that we've watched them all in very quick succession, when you said like, oh, this movie's like this movie, like this movie, what are the through lines for you? Besides the obvious, like, can you tell us, like, besides existentialism or besides the monkeys or besides, you know, the desperate, insecure male, do you think there's anything that's under those things that you would find more insightful than that?
Well, it's a lot of stuff we've already been talking about, so I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, because and I think the reason we're jumping around in the way we are is because they are overlapping concurrent themes, love as well, and making aware of movies, all those things. The only thing I feel like we haven't touched on yet is his, well, that I can think of in this moment, is his like weird relationship to gender, because it's like both because right, literally all of them have like the self-possessed male who doesn't know how to talk to a woman or whatever, and is like hell-bent on that being a problem in their life. But it never stays that simple. Something does get like muddied in the waters over and over, because it's like, okay, but you can make these connections, and it seems like you're choosing to ignore that fact and just continue hating yourself because it doesn't fit your narrative. Or then a lot of them too become this weird gender bending things where like men are trying to become women and women are trying to become men. And like, of course, with things like Human Nature, he really puts to the forefront the idea of like everything's a construct. Like nothing is natural about our human behavior. Like everything is nurture. The only natural thing is that we condition people. Like, and that's a weird thing. So I think he has like some conflicting things of like, if everything's manufactured, is there a difference between men and women, whatever? But then also this thing of like wanting to be in tune with a fuller self. And through that, it's like you can't be in the rigid constructions of masculinity and femininity. Like there's some more fluid thinking going on. And I mean that literally, like, this isn't me projecting, like, and being John Malkovich, straight up Lottie goes in John Malkovich and is like, I am a man. Like I've never felt more like myself by being someone else. And there's also Synecdoche, where like his final form, he literally casts a woman to be him now. And he goes and becomes a woman. He goes and takes the role of Ellen, ending things, of course, from the beginning. You have this intertwined personality manifesting in various forms. Or Anomalisa too. Like, this is me in real time. Like, it's literally there's so much of it. Anomalisa, Tom Noonan is everybody. Everybody is the same person. They have the same face. They have the same voice. Doesn't matter if they're a man, woman, child, whatever. I think there a bit with an animal in Anomalisa. Do you hear him bark at some point?
Yes.
I might make that up.
When he calls his wife, or his wife calls him, and you hear a dog in the background,
bark,
and then the
bark,
son bark.
Yeah. Okay. I knew it. I knew there was a. That's so funny. Okay. Did you give me a present?
Basically, all the noise is the same. The same sound is all the noise,
right?
And then,
plays into the same idea though of like, if everybody's connected in the same, like, we're all coming from the same source, like to put. So really, this is just underlining his larger theme of like, we put on personas, like we are creating everything in this world. It's manufactured because we're afraid to die. That's all. That's the other thing that it comes back to. And like you said, he really, in the 3 directorial ones, focuses in on that and is like, and it makes sense because now he's old. He's in his 60s right now. So he would have been past 40 when he started doing all the directorial ones. So
but he probably thought about death when he was a child. Let's be real.
Of course. And like those, they're not absent from adaptation. Being John Malkovich, I feel like they talk. Oh yeah, being John Malkovich, the whole group of people, they don't want to die, so they keep body hopping. You know, like it's there, but it definitely becomes even more a focus. But he seems to believe, and he's probably not wrong, but he's like, everything we've done in consciousness is to try to comfort us about the fact of our inevitable end. Like every single aspect of us as humans is where, in one of the movies, is it Ending Things? They say that, like, is that what you texted me? Other animals live in the present, humans cannot, so they invented hope. And I feel like that's representative of hope being anything. Hope that I'll find love, I'll find happiness, I'll be creative, I'll feel fulfilled. Like, those are all hopeful things to continue forward in life, because without them, you're just a sad janitor waiting to die in the car. Like, I don't know.
I would also add, in addition to that, which I think is a great insight, that another through line is impotence.
Oh yeah,
because
that's something. The human nature one's my favorite though. The like is a normally small penis. It's like, oh, that's great.
I don't even mean like sexually, even though it is there. But I do mean like literally like how, and it kind of fits into what you're saying, that Caden apologizes. He's like, it's not you, blah, blah, blah.
Did you cry when you were having sex with her? No. Okay, I did at the beginning.
There's this sense of like, if I can be in John Malkovich, I can perform. Yeah. And I can satisfy people. Or if I am a different person, if I just wasn't me, right? And and Anomalisa was actually the first time where I was like, oh, Michael actually did a good job there, and that was surprising to me, because normally throughout all of these, it's like I don't think it's just like sexual; it's also like creative impotence that these people cannot. Like a classic example, Charlie. Like, the only time that he kind of does is when he's alone and when he's fantasizing. He doesn't do anything in real life.
Yeah.
It's all about like being stuck and being like in this personal hell of not being able to make something happen to fruition in a way that you're satisfied with. And I think that that's definitely a theme that keeps on recurring, except in Eternal Sunshine. But that one to me is an outlier anyway. And for a lot of these themes, Eternal Sunshine does not have them.
Well, no, you're right. Well, no, it's just not in the main characters. That's like Elijah Wood's whole deal. He's literally trying to become Joel, who she was trying to erase, and then he's trying to become him because he thinks he's not worth it. And he's like, I will be you because I know that works. And even what in Tom Wilkinson's bit too, a little bit, it's present. It's just not, you're right. It's not happening with Joel or Clementine, but they're both duressed forces in their individual lives still. Like they're clearly unstable, unhappy with what's going on. So
that's why Donald is such a beacon of like light for me, because I'm like, Donald is the only person who accepts himself and likes himself at all. Mm-hmm. He's so comfortable, and he looks, you know what I actually thought of, Frank? I didn't tell you this. I thought of A Different Man so much.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just the same. It's the same
John
thing.
Malkovich and adaptation smashed together is A Different Man.
Is A Different Man, and I was thinking, oh, no wonder, because. Yeah. But in adaptation, it's even more clear because they look the same.
Yeah.
That you can see the confidence that Nick Cage carries with Donald, and there's no difference between them physically, but you see them differently because they see themselves differently. That is such a profound. Mm-hmm. thing, like that it could be so much in your control how you're perceived, that people just don't take ownership of or realize how much that could impact everything.
Is that in Orion? And one of them, they bring this up, that like you can't see yourself through the eyes of others, so stop trying to. It's in one of these movies. I think it might be Orion.
I think he says that to Dark at the end.
Yeah,
when he's dropping him off at home.
Because, we define ourselves by what we assume others must think of us. But it's like, first of all, that's not real. Even if you're right, it's not real. Like, that person's going to still think what they think. So to let yourself feel that is to just hurt yourself. And, like, you have to be free of your own inner voice. This is all coming from a person that doesn't do these. Like, I suffer so much like these fucking people, which is why this week's been so miserable of like, oh my God, I got to get out of my head. I got to let go of fear. I'm listening to the platitudes and I'm like, yeah, man, you're right. And I'm like, that's the bit. Whatever it takes, I guess. I don't know.
It's like self-knowledge does not make it. It's that you have to, there's like a gap between self-knowledge and belief. And if you get to belief, then you can act in it. But we both resonate with this idea profoundly, I think, of like, and I don't think it's a like fake it till you make it thing. It's not at all. It's not like act as if you have it. No, this is like Donald believes in his worthiness almost, and then it's projected onto, and then other people believe in him. It's really quite simple, but I don't know why we can't do this easily.
I don't know.
What is in the way of that?
Brain chemistry. I mean, at least a factor. It is at least a factor, and conditioning of everything that's ever happened in our lives before we got to this moment, those things that form your inner voice and your identity without you consciously knowing that. So then once you are conscious of these things, it's usually too late to easily change it. So then it comes with a lot of work and focus and intention. And that's not easy to do in a life and society that's designed to have you on autopilot and not thinking about yourself.
Okay,
because
David
that takes
Foster
up too
Wallace.
much time and space.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I'm just saying. You asked, and I'm just saying.
No, this reminds me of the dinner scene, which is the one what made me really like Human Nature, because I felt like that was Kaufman saying, here's a potential explanation for this person's neuroses, his parents, and then the way they treated him and the way they treated the adopted kid. Isn't that a little too
simple? Oh my God, that's the funniest fucking part of Human Nature. Is anybody going to tell me who this boy is? Do you hate Wayne too? I hate him, or whatever his name is.
I love the scenes with the therapist, because he's like, "Oh, you are doing this because your parents are obsessed with manners," and he's like, "Yeah, isn't that too simple,
isn't it
Wendell?
Convenient, or whatever." Yeah, but like, that's the thing. Are we actually complex creatures, or are we really stupid and simple creatures? Like, it's both, and it's neither. Like, can you explain it away in an easy, digestible way? It's like yes and no.
I think that we want to be complex. I think that the curse is that we want to be complicated. And if you hear something that's like, be afraid and do it anyway, you're like, it can't be that simple. This is kind of like one of the first things I heard with AA was, just don't drink today. And I'm like, it can't be like that. And they're like, get in the car and don't drink. And you're like, surely I'm smarter than this. Like, I need more information. Just don't drink for 24 hours. Just don't drink for 5 minutes. And so there's like this instinctive desire to completely reject things that are simple. Mm-hmm. Even if you deep down are like, that's actually true and that actually works. It's so hard to.
We've set up society to be so far away from our instinctual ways. Like, where it's not natural. Nothing is natural, Amy. Everything is weird and manufactured. No, but like, and that's the point. I think at the end of human nature, it's like, well, that's not the answer either. Like, there is no answer. There will never be an answer. We're just like, we're existing. We're here, and it's happening, and it's gonna happen, and then it will stop, and that's that. And like, figure yourself out in the middle.
That is a great question, Frank. Do you think that any of Charlie's films have a solution? Like, do you think all of them are just meditations on the problem?
Sorry, this is dark. I'm gonna share my intrusive thought. I usually don't. Just like, well, ending things sure does provide a solution. I don't know if it's a good one, but it's sure a bad one. It sure has a solution. Just kill yourself. Sorry, it's crazy. It's actually crazy.
It's terrible.
Oh, I love it.
No, I mean, okay,
but no, I know what you
solution.
Mean. Adaptation comes close, I think, because it's like, stop. Just open yourself. Just like, if you literally open up to what's happening, like, your life will be inherently better. Like, you don't have to make it miserable. So that comes close. Again, I'm sure people would argue Eternal Sunshine in some way, choosing pain. Again, I think if you focus on the emotional idea, not the romantic idea of like, choose pain over nothing.
I think also Anomalisa for Lisa.
Sure, if she's real.
If she's real, no. I think she is. But if we're talking about like her at the end, because so what happens to her that's so profound is that she starts to sound like Tom Noonan, because he's just getting into reality and he doesn't want her to be in reality and he wants her to sound different, so she doesn't. But then the letter at the end, she does have her voice only.
And I think her friend has a unique face in the letter, because like when it's during the movie, she has the same Tom Noonan face, but I think they both have unique faces during her letter, if I'm not mistaken. Just to be so like, right, in Lisa's mind, she will, this has helped her in a positive way, like, feel better about herself. But Michael is doomed to repeat in his misery.
And Michael is so common. Like, that is the common man now. Like, the common experience of just feeling like you're average, even though like I felt that it was kind of profound that Tom Noonan didn't play Michael, because that is saying something, that he actually has a unique voice and he doesn't hear himself, and he doesn't recognize that what he's looking for is actually that he's a difference too. You know what I mean? And so it's just his whole fixation is outside of himself.
But it's also completely internal, right? Because like, all those people don't look and sound the same. He's forcing that onto the world from his internal dissatisfaction. It's both things at once, right? Like, I don't know. Anomalisa is a crazy movie. I'm so happy you loved it. I knew you would, honestly.
Well,
the first hour is so beautiful and perfect, and I still like the last half hour. when I feel like it becomes more standard, non-derogatorily, but like standard Kaufman stuff. But like the first hour felt so, it's almost like his most human movie, like in a weird way for the first hour. It's so raw and tender and like slow and really cares about like human emotions and like sitting with them and like that uncomfortability. Oh, that's the true connection between all of them. He's okay with people being pathetic and losers in his movies, and like him being like, we're all pathetic losers. If everyone knew what you were thinking all day or did when no one else was watching and all that stuff, like we're all pathetic losers probably. And
even the people with like, okay, so because Michael is in some sort of customer service thing and he's like spouting all these platitudes, and then he wrote a book, like a self-help book, and then the therapist that Hope Davis plays in Synecdoche, she's so screwed up.
Yeah.
But so the point is that like we're all losers, but then also like where we go for help.
Losers everywhere.
Right.
But just,
except for McKee. McKee is the only one that's
McKee's
like
a boss. That dude's got it figured out.
Yeah.
No, I think that is a thing that people maybe do feel discomfort with, the Charlie Kaufman thing, because he's willing to be so ugly. And it's one of those things where it's like, how can you be like, oh, Charlie Kaufman's so smart and knows he's so smart and so self-satisfied, like boo-hoo-hoo, when you watch something like Adaptation that makes Charlie seem like the fucking worst. Like, there's no, until the very end, and even then it's only by product of like circumstance and Donald and like extreme reality. Like, Charlie is like the one person you would never want to be with in that movie. So like, he's just like laying it out there, which is like what we usually want from art. Like, the best art is like people to be vulnerable and express, and people get really defensive and on a high horse about like, you think you're better than me, Charlie Kaufman. And it's like, I think you're missing the point of what he's talking about. I think he knows he's not better than anyone. And I think it fucks with his head when people nonstop are like, you're a genius. And he's like, I'm just writing movies that are mostly references. Like, no, I'm not.
That's kind of how I feel like. So when he references A Woman Under the Influence, Cassavetes, and he references DFW, it's like those are two people who are doing the exact same thing. They literally are vulnerable and trying to display humanity,
messy expulsion.
Exactly. And they're being sincere, but Cassavetes can come across as pretentious. I know people think David Foster Wallace is,
which both of those things, madness,
right?
It's like there's no that like the word pretentious can't exist in especially those two. Like,
that's what I mean, and those are who Kaufman references. So I'm saying he's in I would consider him in that category of like people that are genuinely, sincerely, they're also like exorcising something from themselves. I think. I mean, it seems like it's like it has to come out, and like this is the way that they get it out. So there's just no artifice to me, even though they have, even though
they're extreme artifice.
But they're, I mean, in terms of intention or like, in terms of motive.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Especially weird on that note too, because, no, I lost my thought. It's an interesting thing to consider. Because there is irony, and they're not free of irony, and and he like critiques society and like the way we behave and stuff, like, so it's not like, but it still somehow feels fully sincere 100% of the time. That's a very interesting line to toe. And I think people latch on to the more ironic elements, probably because of imitators of Charlie Kaufman who can't do what Charlie Kaufman does. Like, people who want to get in like weird details for the sake of it. It's like the 7.5 floor thing in Being John Malkovich is not just like a quirky bit. First of all, it makes them shrink like they're monkeys. Like, that was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, they look like monkeys. Like, I get it. Like, come on, man. Like, there's a reason that they're doing these bits, and they usually pay off like later in a movie or whatever.
It's
Like,
also like I think he gets dismissed for like it's so Alice in Wonderland with the portal and with the black hole, the rabbit hole, whatever you want to say. But I feel like it's like the way that Kaufman. This is the genius of Kaufman in my mind, is the way that he takes disparate elements.
mm-hmm.
It's almost like creating a stew or something, and then he makes this new flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And the new flavor is out of using like this thing over here, this thing over here, this thing over here. And the beauty is being able to see that and understand it. Like, I love that I love adaptation and understand it. I'm not watching it in a way that's like, oh, it's just Charlie Kaufman, like whatever, jerking off. It's like, no, there's.
Well, actually, in adaptation, there is Charlie Kaufman jerking off.
Yes. But you know what I mean.
I know.
It's not like.
But that's what he's in on the joke. He knows. He's like, this is me jerking off. Like, I get it. Like, but it's not that, because he wouldn't put that
it's
in.
kind of, if you think about it, like when I was doing the prep for the Malick episode, there were so many people saying this about Malick in a different way, but like, the pretension, the voiceover, the like, especially. Yeah, the sweeping cinematography, song to song, Night of Cubs. He just gets slammed for this stuff. And it's the same thing as what you just said a little bit ago, where how can you like the first half of Malick?
Yeah, where it's
and then
the
hate the
same
second
thing.
Right. So what's the beef there? Is it just that you feel like this person's doing the same thing over and over? Or like, because I love all of Malick. I don't, yeah.
This is something that you're reminding me, something I've been thinking about all week, is like, really affirming to me something I've been picking up on for a few years, like to make all these movies. I think the only reason any of them got made is because Charlie Kaufman somewhere along the way knew he had to become a brand. And I think that is like a horrible reality of like current creation culture, and has been for a while. Like, if you're not a brand unto yourself, people won't care. They won't remember. It doesn't matter. It's just anything else. It's a movie. It's a song. It doesn't matter. But like, for an artist to stay working and relevant, like, they kind of have to create a brand, which is like where the whole auteur theory like fits into filmmaking in general. Like, I recognize this person's style and whatever. And like, Charlie tried to be a writer for like a very long time before being John Malkovich, for like well over a decade. And was trying. And it's like, I think once that hit, he identified like, needs to somehow be my brand, some version of this. And I'm not saying it's not genuine. It's clearly born from inside of himself. But I think there is an inherent understanding of like, this is what a Charlie Kaufman story kind of has to be, because it's the way I found to express myself that people responded to. So it's a weird thing to think about and try to reckon, especially as a person who wants to be an artist too. Like, that really fucks with my head a little bit, actually. Like, so even at its most genuine, how genuine can it be? Or am I just thinking about these things because that's like what all the movies are about? And like,
no,
how genuine is this persona? How far does it go?
But this is kind of what, like, I think of this as like the height of this is like Taylor Swift and Charlie XCX. I mean, these people have like, they are now. I mean, because, but the question, I guess, I think that I hear in like the underlying of that you're saying is, well, what if you change? Like, what if you grow? What if you want to do something else?
There's many bands that I stopped listening to once they tried a new sound, and it's like, okay, well, I liked you when you had that sound. And I know that's like a failing in myself even. And if I really like the band, you'll follow them anywhere because you'll find the things that do connect. Same thing with filmmakers, like where they do try different things. But yeah, it seems weird to want to criticize because it was new once, but now it just feels like you're getting the same thing over and over. But I don't get how that's a negative, because you can't get Charlie Kaufman from anyone but Charlie Kaufman. So it's like, shouldn't we be happy that we have these 9 things? I wish it was 20. I don't know.
But also, Frank, when people also get angry when people go way off.
I know.
Like,
you can't make people happy.
I mean, I was just thinking of PTA. like going from Boogie Nights to Magnolia, so there's like,
and then
like
Punch Drunk Love, like just
there's
out in the wilderness.
But there's directors who have like, they'll make a hit and then the next thing they do bombs because it isn't like the hit, but they did the hit so that they could do the thing that they really actually wanted to do. That happens so often where it's like, it's not exactly one for them, one for me. It's more like I like did a blockbustery, very, very critically acclaimed thing. And then when I did what I wanted to do that I feel the best about, people are like, why didn't you do it like the
Eternal Sunshine to Synecdoche? Like Charlie even has it.
Yeah.
Like people other
Nolan doesn't though, but
Tenet, people rejected Tenet.
But that's kind of a I don't know what that is. Like a lot of people like Tenet. A lot.
Now.
Yes.
Because of me. I'm just kidding.
You and Tyler.
Me and Tyler are the only reason anyone likes Tenet. No.
I'm just saying, like, I think that
Tenet has like a 3.1 on Letterboxd or something dumb. It's low.
Okay. The point is that you cannot do things for the audience. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
You just can't. And I guess it's easy to say, because I'm not famous, that I can do whatever I want with what I want to express. But I guess everybody gets to a point where they, sell out, or what do you think happens? Like, I guess it's impossible for us to imagine what that's like, to have pressure to continue something that you've outgrown.
The phrase selling out is a confusing one, right? Like, is achieving your goal and getting paid for what you were always trying to do inherently selling out? Like, is it the moment you don't have full control? Because like in reality, like most things don't come with full control. Like, to have control is an illusion, or whatever they say, whatever platitude that is.
That you're trying to internalize.
Yeah, exactly. So
and like you've said so many times about you personally trying to be a filmmaker, that there's so much else to do with it that you can easily just lose there's like the percentage of it that is the thing. And then there's so much else that you have complete disinterest in that gets the thing made.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
a terrible thing.
And
like, I feel like maybe people are more comfortable with the idea of like, yeah, so what? Like, everything's fake and you have to play the game, and that's that, and that's just reality and being an adult. But like, it discomforts me in the same way it discomforts Charlie Kaufman, of like, is there a way to be your full self actually? Like, is there a way to quote unquote win and live your fullest life actually, without compromising some part of yourself or the world or others? Like, can we move through this place to be fully satisfied? And it's like, I believe, yeah, probably, but I think it's also easily a corruptible pursuit that humans have as a drive. I don't know.
Well, and it also comes down to the thing in the swamp where Donald's like, I can love whoever I want. Like, there is this sense of like, I don't need Kim Kennedy to Sarah Marsh to care about me. I own that love.
That was really profound to hear, to be honest. I was like, wow, what a good... I didn't remember it. I didn't remember that exchange at all. I only remembered you are who you love.
You are what you love.
Or
you are what you love.
Not
what loves you.
Yeah. But like,
the
way he phrased that too, I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good point, Charlie. Donald.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Donald, because he's like, for those of you who've never seen anything that we're talking about, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, bad episode.
He's like that he was flirting with somebody in high school and the girls were laughing at him when he walked away, and he was like, yeah, I heard them, and it doesn't matter. So the point is, it's so easy to say, but the whole like pursuit of validation is just dreadful. This I was just talking to Swart about this with Last Showgirl, where it's like, if that's what you want is your audience's approval, you, my friend, are in big trouble. And it's not that, like McKee was saying, you have to consider your audience. You don't want to waste their time, but you can't be doing it for them. And kind of
and that's a weird paradox thing to try to. That's why so few people can actually do it. because it's not easy to circle that. Because you're right, it's both. I mean, this is conversations I've had with fellow people who are also I shouldn't say trying, who are also filmmakers and stuff, of like, I never think about the audience. I have to make it for just me. And I will get hung up on like, but how is a person going to see this and respond to it? And like, I'm always at peace with the fact, like, I can't dictate a response, but like, I have to be okay with the permutations of it. And I have to try to think like, how can I best guide what I want still, you know? But like, is that flawed or is that right? I don't know. Like it's both things. It's neither. There are no answers, Amy.
I feel like there's also like the extreme. Can you think of a director where they just make whatever they want and they literally don't care? I don't think that's good either. Like where people only use art because they're like, well, it's just for me and it makes me happy. I don't really respect that either, because I feel like then go write in your journal if you don't need.
That's where I get hung up. That's where I get hung up. If the audience doesn't matter, then why do you have to share it?
Exactly.
You're lying.
On a platform or on a movie. Like you're deluding yourself into thinking that you don't need that attention. 100%. You clearly do. Just admit it.
It's the curse of artistry. It's clearly born from a place of needing value, which maybe, okay, I'll answer both these things. One thing I'm going back to, maybe that's actually where like the hang up with the women and everything and the communication actually is stemming from. It's not even romantic and sexual as much as it's like, I want validation from the people that society has told me I'm supposed to have validation from to be worth something or whatever. Just like a messed up way of thinking. Just connecting that, like it is really based in validation more than anything else. And then like, right, director wise, I can't think of anybody. Like, I don't know, like are probably like the slow cinema people maybe don't care, but like they also still, like someone like a Pitchapong still very much cares about an audience. And like,
I was thinking like Kiarostami.
Right. Both of them clearly care about the audience still.
Right. But they still have a sense of, I don't know, like,
I mean, both of them have famously said, like, if you fall asleep during my movie, that's a compliment. Like, I bet you're going to dream about it and think about it. Like, that's beautiful. I gave you the time to relax and drift off. Like, they're aware of, like, this won't work for everyone, but, like, I still care that people are having an experience. Even more dictatorial directors like Kubrick and Fincher are, like, obsessed with how the movie's going to play for an audience. They tinker like no others because they're trying to make fine-tuned machines that deliver to an audience. They're almost obsessively focused on audience, to be honest. So
that's kind of, I'm advocating for a balance here. I'm not saying that, like, I'm actually saying that you should, if you are expressing anything where people are going to read it or you're putting it in a place where people are going to see it, there is no reason for you to do that if it's only for yourself. And so I'm just saying, like, respect the audience in addition to doing that. But maybe I agree with like the intention of like, I'm doing this because it makes me feel better, or I'm doing this because I feel compelled. But don't pretend that it doesn't have something to do with them, and don't also cater to them. Both are completely bad.
I mean,
for different reasons.
I guess that's studio filmmaking, right? They're the idea of pure studio filmmaking of like, this is detached from a personal thing. It's created an assembly line. We follow format. We know the beats. We know what will get people in seats, etc. Like it's all corporately minded. Like, we just want some revenue. Like that's the one end of the spectrum. Is the other end Bellatar? Like, I'm in Hungary just doing my thing. Like, I don't give a fuck what happens. Like, here's my 7.5 hour movie. Have fun. Like, I don't know if Bellatar cares about an audience. Like, he might. I'm not going to speak for him. I don't know. So like, right. Yeah. It's to be healthily in the middle of those two things. I agree completely. And I think Charlie weirdly is, because he's so obsessed with structures and making sure we know, like, he's trying to play into the way we reference things. So like he is so fundamentally aware of audience. But he also respects it. Like, ending things is a fascinating example of this, because I feel like he really is trusting us implicitly to go on his ride, to understand what's going on, maybe intuitively before literally, and he's not like trying to play a trick, and it's not really a twist or anything that happens, but like he's trusting, like you're gonna be able to get it, and you're gonna get to go along with me. And clearly it doesn't work for a lot of people who just get frustrated and are like, well, that was stupid, what was the point of that, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's where I get into like, I just don't understand, because I feel like there's enough there. I mean, Kaufman definitely has levels to which he is communicating with people who love movies.
Mm-hmm.
If you can catch the reference, but you don't need to. I mean,
I didn't know it was a Beautiful Mind reference until I read it. I've seen A Beautiful Mind like one time, and never in a million years was I going to make that connection on my own, but I still understood the scene and thought it was hilarious. It's like, oh, you're doing like this bit. I just didn't know he was literally doing A Beautiful Mind, which only makes it funnier. And then
Orion, the Herzog narration, and then saying like, I got slammed at Sundance. It's a boys' club. There's a lot of things where you're like, this is for us, and that's cool, but it's not.
It's also how people think and how people
You're
speak.
in on the joke, though. I feel like he's not trying to be, I don't know, who's a filmmaker where just you feel like, Noah Baumbach is like this for me, where I'm just like, you think you're making movies for intellectuals, and if you like, you have to have a certain IQ to get his dialogue, and that's what I don't like, is the condescension that I feel sometimes from filmmakers, the way that it's done, where I'm just like, you're either holding my hand, which is an insult, or you're talking down to me in a way that feels exclusive.
Okay, but when you say that, like, I think I agree with you about Baumbach, but at the same time, I feel like there are people who don't feel that way about him. So then it all becomes like, it's your own internal reaction to how the person is communicating, because we don't think that even remotely with Kaufman, but there are indisputably people who are like, again, you think you're so fucking, you think you're better than me? Like, oh, you're so smart, Charlie. Like, yeah. So
maybe that's why Nolan is so successful. He's like the people's director. He's like
I will sit here and I will explain everything that's happening to you. Now, come on, follow me.
With exposition ad nauseum.
All his movies are just exposition. Inception. All of them. It's not, except Dunkirk, because like nobody's talking. But
but I love I think. I don't know why, something you just said reminded me of Funny Games, and like watching that of where like he does not talk down to you. He is doing something that's kind of delicate in terms of like, if you catch it, but he is meeting you at the level that he thinks your intelligence is. Like, do you know what I mean? He has respect for, I'm not going to preach to you. I'm not going to make this like necessarily accessible, but I trust that you will get it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
No, I just freaked out because it was a thing I wanted to bring up, but of course this has been insane. During Human Nature, I took the note that they're all like Funny Games. He's obsessed with what we're obsessed with, how to subvert it, he knows we're aware, and he's aware that we're aware, and we're aware that he's aware. So it's like, where can you go from here? And it is the Funny Games thing of like, okay, we're all aware. Like, let's play the game. Like, let's make the movie. But like,
also let's take this into an extreme to make us realize something about ourselves. That's what the meaning of Funny Games and like the impact of it is, that you're like, oh, I normally enjoy, well, it's hard to say now because in that context, but like, violence in movies is not something that's
a horror movie doesn't bother me.
It doesn't. Right. But then when you see those long stretches in Funny Games, you're like, okay, I feel very
deliberately pointing to you and being like, you are a part of this, right? Like, how are you doing in the seats? Let me undo what just happened. Like, did you feel good? Why? You shouldn't. Like, it's no different just because I showed you something. It's all weird and And that movie's masterful too, because we're not here to talk about funny games. So I'm not going to get off on a tangent of funny
but
games.
The point is that you and I both see, this is what I was saying, I think at the beginning, where I was like, I was willing to cover Kaufman with you because we see the same movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's crucial.
He's one of our alignments. He's one of our true Venn diagram. He might be.
The center of the Venn, where it's like, when I watch adaptation, I know that you see adaptation, the same things that jump out at you. You get it, and it seems like that it was that way across the board with all of these. So that's
maybe Synecdoche, we have a slight disconnect, but I think you at least see what I see. So
I see what you see because I know you. Yes.
Good.
It's like, okay. We're gonna wrap up now, Frank.
Are we?
I know you're gonna be upset with me, but I want you to
we didn't talk about anything.
Give me your final ranking on air.
Oh my god, of all of them,
mm-hmm. So that people will know what to watch first.
Well, that's a different answer.
I know.
I still don't know though. What's my favorite? I'm still debating. Can I say they're tied? Like. But all of these feel wrong. They're all tied. I won't do it. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Okay,
I guess
you can give us your top 3 if you want.
I guess I'll try. Okay. I think it's Synecdoche, still 1, but Ending Things is a real close 2. And then this is I don't know. It's Eternal Sunshine and Adaptation. They're 3 and 4. You could probably flip them. I really don't know. And then the rest feels right. Anomalisa 5, Being John Malkovich 6, Orion in the Dark 7, Human Nature 8, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind 9.
Yeah, and I have the same back 5 as you, exactly in that same order.
No, because you have Synecdoche low, because you're an idiot.
Well, yeah. Besides Synecdoche, that's really our only aberration, but that's only because I just
It's too miserable. Gets you 2 down. See, this is what I was why I debate the 2. Synecdoche still made me cry like 6 times watching it. Like it still really gets me on like an emotional level, but like something about it didn't feel exactly as special as it used to. But then Ending Things, like it like almost calmed me and it didn't have any extreme reaction, but then like I love what it's doing and what it is and how it is fully committed to being surreal and like a dreamscape and like just focused on this interiority. Like I'm obsessed with Ending Things as an object, maybe more than like I actually love it as a movie. I don't know how else to explain it.
I understand. It's almost like mind versus heart. Like
exactly. Ending Things is the head and Synecdoche is the heart. For sure. Yeah. Synecdoche, I'm just like, it's life. It's a movie that genuinely encompasses the totality of existence somehow.
And Synecdoche to me feels like maybe his most personally. Like it seems like that one is like, and it's hard not to love seeing Philip
in one of his best performances.
I told you, like, I almost started crying at the beginning when he's reading the newspaper and talking about all these people who died and the ways that they died. And I just had this feeling of like, what if he had known the way he was going to go out? How would he feel about that? And I was just like,
not good.
Man.
We know not good because he was clean for so many years. It's just devastating.
It's devastating. That's still he and Heath Ledger were the only celebrity deaths that I cried about. Like, I didn't for anyone else.
David Lynch had me as a sobbing mess.
Oh yeah,
it was embarrassing.
And we were
it was the most embarrassing day of my life. No, you don't understand, Amy. I was just like, this is a bit ridiculous that I'm like crying an hour later. Still, I'm just like, get it together, man. Just a little bit.
That would make sense. And somebody asked me like, that would have been amazing if I had done Provocateur for Lynch right then. And I was like, no, it wouldn't. No.
I still haven't watched any of his movies. I'm not ready, but I'm going to this year. Probably rewatch all of them. But
okay, so I hope that we have sold Kaufman to the non-believers, and if not, I'm very sorry. Adaptation is in my top 10 of all time permanently.
Nice.
I know, like, when Frank was watching it, I was like, Frank, tell me a line.
It was so crazy
that you're on. Like, just what did you just hear? And then I said the next line because I know it so well.
It was actually one of the most impressive things that has ever happened. I started to type because I didn't know if what I sent was enough, so I started to type the next line, and before I could finish, Amy sent it, and I was like, okay, like
I'm probably the smartest person I know.
That so good. Oh, so he's such a wonderful character, truthfully. And yes,
Chris Cooper is awesome.
There was a period of time where Synecdoche was my favorite movie of all time. Like for at least a year. It was a fundamental changing year of like me getting really into movies as an adult and seriously, like have always been, of course, but like really evolving and expanding tastes. And so that's a forever important movie, and Ending Things is easy top 50. So both of those are extremely important to me.
So if one day, because Frank has been begging me to be his producer in his life. So if I ever am, I'll have to call it like Donald Productions because I'm like the Donald to your Charlie.
You are the Donald.
Thank you, Frank, so much.
Oh God,
it's been such a pleasure. I'm glad we made it without crying. And
I'm gonna cry as soon as we stop. What did we talk about? Did we say anything?
Thank you all for listening. Have I ever had an original
thought in my head?
See you at the movies. I have to go right home. I know how to finish the script now. It ends with Kaufman driving home after his lunch with Amelia, knowing he knows how to finish the script. Shit, that's voiceover. McKee would not approve. How else can I show his thoughts? I don't know. Oh, who cares what McKee says? It feels right, conclusive. I wonder who's going to play me. Someone not too fat. I like that Gerard Depardieu, but can he not do the accent? Anyway, it's done, and that's something. So, Kaufman drives off from his encounter with Amelia, filled for the first time with hope. I like this. This is good.